Augmented reality has brought a new dimension into the creative workspace. We have seen medical applications that help doctors and surgeons, and we've seen educational applications that are going to change the way content is visually displayed and consumed by the student. But when blending the physical world and the virtual world come issues in the spatial perception of virtual objects. For example, if we have a developer creating an augmented reality environment that contains various floating elements, the developer needs to ensure that their users have an accurate sense of the depth distance between them and the virtual objects in front of them. So when designing an AR application, it is very important for developers to understand the relationship between how virtual objects are rendered and how users will perceive the spatial positioning of those objects. We have conducted a study that examines the effects of common perceptual factors on depth perception across 2 experiments. That answers the question, how do various design factors affect depth perceptions in augmented reality? This project contains multiple parts. The first was creating the experimental framework. The next was running participants and collecting data. And the last was to present the work at ISMAR, which is the International Symposium on Mixed and Augmented Reality. The framework, which will be shown in the following clip, presented participants with a perceptual matching task, in which they were shown a 3D object rendered with various design factors. Their task was to move this object in the positive and negative Z direction until they thought the object was at the same depth as one of 8 real-world targets. Here, the participant looks up to see which target number they are supposed to move the object to, and then they look down to see the corresponding target on the ground, which is 1, and then they move the object until they think the object is at the same depth as the target. This framework was specifically created for the Microsoft HoloLens. There were 6 factors that were tested in this study, but the following factors are the 2 that had the biggest impact on depth alignment accuracy. The first was drop shadow, which was implemented using a dark, semi-transparent plane that was always immediately below the object. And the second was cast shadow via ray tracing, which used ray tracing to identify the size and position of the object's shadows based on the position of the light sources in the room. And to determine shadow intensity, we computed the magnitude of the vector between the light source and the furthest point of the shadow. And to give a sense on how the shadows were calculated, here is the Unity scene. Overall, participants expressed a preference for drop shadows, and it proved to have the biggest impact on depth alignment accuracy across our study, even though cast shadows via ray tracing provided a closer approximation of the real world. The reason this may be is because ray tracing could lead to an object casting multiple shadows due to multiple light sources, which may be more cognitively demanding to interpret than a single drop shadow. This contrast between preference and simulation fidelity supports prior findings in visual perception and suggests that people are effectively tolerant of imperfections in shadows. This project is just the beginning of understanding how humans perceive virtual elements in the physical world. This work is important because it provides AR developers insight into how design trade-offs influence the perceived real-world depth of virtual objects in augmented reality applications. I know that once it's perfected, AR is going to change the way humans interact with technology forever. It is going to change education because of its ability to cater to all learning types, and AR has already made an impact with surgeons using it as a tool. To me, this project has helped me discover my passion and has set a clear path of what I want to do in the industry. I want to spend my career perfecting this technology so it can be used by the public and witness the great potential it has for so much good in the world. The study was published through the International Symposium on Mixed and Augmented Reality, or ISMAR, and in October of 2017, I flew to France and presented this research to PhDs from all over the world in the AR community. The paper was one of 4 from the United States out of 34, and I was one of 3 women who presented. This experience allowed me to go through the entire research process as an undergrad, and I am incredibly grateful to everyone involved with this project. Thank you.